Here, let's look
A
at...
couple of months ago, I made the decision to quit.
Retire.
I'm taking a break.
It's not clickbait.
Things are changing.
I am bringing them to an end.
If I'm honest with you guys, don't want to do this anymore.
Now it's time to take a breather.
I'll be handing off the channels.
Full-time filmmaker has been acquired.
This era of polyphonic is over.
It is the correct decision.
And it's time to move on.
I mean, I think what PewDiePie did is kind of the peak, right? He was dominant. He was at the top. He fucked off to Japan, had a kid, and just like chills, makes videos casually and just chills. That's it. That is the perfect way. You know what I mean? Isn't it a good thing that a lot of these creators are able to retire? Certainly, but I think that there is like a lot of the reasons as to why people are retiring is because they're like burned out.
In the last few months, and especially since the new year, each of these channels has posted some form of goodbye video. It's been really interesting to see, and I just want to take a few minutes to talk about it. I'll be using clips from some of them throughout the episode, so make sure to show your support by watching on their channels as well. I've left links in the description. What I and a lot of others have noticed about these goodbyes is they all have a lot in common. There are a handful of factors that each of these creators mention. Work-life balance, a loss of joy and creativity, and though they might not use the word, each of them mentioned some aspect of alienation. I'm not going to say, ooh, it's all capitalism, because there is more to it than that, but it does make a lot of these problems worse, as you'll see in a bit. Anyway, I think let's start with work-life balance. Take a listen.
For as much as I love you, and I love overthinking things, and I love theorizing, I don't love late nights. I don't love the fact that Steph and I have been work first for over a decade, where I'm sitting down at dinner with my best friend, and we're talking about business logistics.
If I get that feeling, you ever had that feeling?
Let me tell you something. For me, what I do in particular, I am able to add variety into everything that I'm doing, right? If I get bored of like constantly talking about politics and the monotony of like the day in, day out of just like not being able to experience any kind of fucking real world change from all of this commentary, I could just fuck off and go to Austin like I did, right? I can do IRL streams. I can play video games. Like obviously when you compare this to the average person does not have that opportunity. Okay? The average person does not have that opportunity. Okay? They don't. The average person is cooked. Significantly higher levels of alienation from their labor, no control over their own lives or their own destiny in any meaningful capacity, constantly doing route tasks on a daily basis that someone else is assigned to them. Okay? So make no mistake, obviously there is a tremendous amount of privilege here for content creators in general. So when I talk about content creators, I think like I'm just simply giving you an insider's perspective on what it looks like. Do you even need to work anymore? You could just chill and open a business or something. That's what I mean. If I wanted to, technically, I could just like dump every fucking dollar I've ever made into the stock market and most likely make my capital accumulate on its own. Okay? Yeah, I could just like quit and do that. The system literally is designed for me to do that. Okay? The system is straight up designed for me to do this. Okay? And that's what many of these content creators have done as well. They've like created a nest egg for themselves, figured out a way to like, streamline this process or potentially still generate revenue while they, I guess, quote unquote, kind of retire. Okay. And Yeah, I don't know. I like this. These people typing poor millionaires can't compartmentalize that you can feel empathetic towards their struggles without mitigating the struggles of other people who don't have these opportunities. Yeah. People think you need to suffer for your job to be considered a job. Yeah, it is sad. Anyway, let's continue.
When you're like, oh, you know, I'm with family right now, but I need to get back to the office, or I should take, you know, lunch to work, or whatever it is. I want to stop that. I want to completely eliminate that.
I can't keep this up. This is my dream job, and I have a lot of fun doing it. I know I'm incredibly lucky, but a dream job is still a job, and it's a job that keeps getting bigger and more complicated, and I am so tired. There's nothing in my life right now except work.
But in reality, it just put me in a constant state of stress and work, and now I'm always at work. My home is work. A vacation should become a vlog. Every TV show I watch and song I hear should be turned into some sort of content. Like, I shouldn't be relaxing right now, I should be making content, and it just isn't possible for me to turn that mindset off. And I realized this is not how I want to live any longer.
I don't get any satisfaction from the type of work that I do here anymore. And if you work 7 days a week...
Damn, this is like brutal. When placed back to back to back, this shit is like actually unironically brutal. Holy moly. I didn't even realize it was I didn't realize it was like that. Can't the people just cut back on the amount of content they make? I mean, they have the opportunity not to, okay? They like, think about it this way. A lot of these guys are sitting on a fucking mountain of gold. Okay, like the proverbial dragon. And even then, there's like constantly more gold is being showered upon them. And even then, they're like, yeah, fuck this, dude. I'm done. I can't do this shit. And it feels like there's something there. That's not true. No, dude. In comparison to like the average person, are you kidding me? It's unimaginable. It's unimaginable, dude. I'll tell it to you like this. Even with, like, my first big merch drop, I made more money than like every fucking year prior in like the real professional space. Okay? And that's with insanely small margins in comparison to like how much money people make off of merchandising in general. Think about that. Like, and that's with hundreds of thousands of dollars that I raised funds for donations on top of that too. Okay? What I'm saying is, it's not like they're giving up everything. Oh, that's, yeah, okay. I thought you said that's not true, that they don't make a lot of money. They do. A lot of people make a lot of money in comparison to the fucking, in comparison to the average Joe. That's my point.
Week, that becomes very heavy mentally. For the past 10 years of my life, there has not been a single vacation where I was not working. There has even been times where I was working on Christmas Day. And don't even...
By the way, that was a testament to not just how much money like one merch drop makes, but more so a testament to how little money you make when you're working in the professional world. You know what I mean? Like my first year working for the Young Turks, I made $21,000. Okay. By the time I was out of the Young Turks, I was making 60 grand a year in fucking Los Angeles, chat. Okay. That's like 4 years of working at TYT, which was a startup at the time, a tiny startup at the time for a fucking YouTube network. Okay. Living in, yeah, pre-tax. But when you're making 21K pre-tax, doesn't matter. You get money from the government at the end of the year. Okay. So that doesn't mean shit. My point is like that salary is especially impossible to fucking live with in a place like Los Angeles. All right. Also, when you've reached a certain point of stability, you can allow yourself to question if what you do is making you happy. Their situation isn't necessarily unique to do them being content creators, but they have the ability to examine their situation and publicly discuss it. Do you ever feel the same way about having to turn everything into content? Every vacation, every trip, does that take a toll? No, because I like it. I enjoy it. That's the point. Like, my favorite trips were Japan because I had like such a streamlined approach to creating content and had incredibly unique experiences that I was able to share with other people. That, for me, is peak. That's the best possible experience I can have on vacation. I don't actually enjoy it when I'm I don't actually enjoy it as much when I'm like, I guess, on vacation with my family and I'm not doing anything with it. I feel like it's just not great.
Even get me started on New Year's Eve because I hated it when it was getting too late because I wanted to be fit the next day to work again.
Work-life balance, the pinnacle of achievement throughout history. Since the very first caveman enslaved his neighbor, we've been fighting to secure a decent balance between the time we spend at work and the time we have for leisure.
Oh, the only thing I'm saying is this, okay? If they truly weren't fucking burning out, if they truly... What? How did you afford a place? I literally lived in the kitchen of a frat house. So no, I did not afford a place at $21,000 a year, chatter, to answer your question. That's not even a joke. Also, after that, I had a shit ton of roommates. You know what I mean? Once you're rich, isn't burning out pretty much voluntary? Yeah, I think so. I get what you're trying to say. I understand what you're saying. I think there's like some truth to that. But my point is this. These guys make so much money and have basically like an endless supply of making even more money with the content that they're creating. So their burnout must be real. It's the only difference is that because they are privileged enough. What? Black people, Africa, Nigeria. Nigeria is a good country to visit. Nigeria. What do you think about black people? Okay, take 30 minutes off, chat. Why are we assuming Pokemon is burnt out and quitting? I'm not saying Pokemon is burnt out and quitting. I'm just simply talking about a broader subject. I'm sure she will reveal why she's quitting. Okay? Or even if she is quitting or not. I don't know what the fuck she's doing. She didn't respond to me, so. All right, let's continue.
Family, recovering to go back to work. You've probably seen that old image from when people were fighting for an 8-hour workday. 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, 8 hours for what we will.
That's because you're a workaholic. I think these YouTube types are never that kind of person. That's why they started making YouTube videos instead of normal career paths. Not to say that JC's analysis is wrong. Or you mean JT's analysis. I am definitely a workaholic. For sure. That part is true. I love having a structure. I love having something to do. That is, it definitely keeps me very much, it keeps me very much, you know, alive, I guess. That's it. There's a reason why I am one of the very few Twitch streamers who's like so consistent. Because Twitch streaming is not supposed to be consistent. You just kind of do it for fun. And you don't have to have like any kind of like professional approach to it for the most part. And that's not how Twitch streamers start. And that's not how YouTubers start either. Whereas like I have had this same approach since day one that as soon as I went full-time on Twitch streaming, I was like, every day I'm going to be doing this 7 days a week. I'm going to be live. I'm going to be live at the same time, and I'm going to be doing like the same structure, right? I need that. I need that to function. I need to be able to do that.
That sounds pretty nice.
Cannot say that Matt Pat isn't a workaholic though. Bro was working all the time. No, I think so. I think he was too, I'm sure. Some of these YouTubers are, some of them are not. But let's continue.
These days, 8 hours of work just doesn't really cut it for most people. And believe it or not, that goes for YouTubers too. And we'll get to that in a sec. A growing number of Americans work more than one job, and some 400,000 work 2 full-time jobs, just to make ends meet. Everything from housing, to groceries, to utilities is getting more expensive, and the only thing that's not going up is wages. You've heard it before, but if the minimum wage had just kept up with inflation and productivity gains since the Reagan years, it'd be over $24 an hour today. But here in the richest country on earth, the federal minimum wage is still $7.25 an hour. It's hard to have a decent work-life balance when the hours you work don't earn you enough money, so you have to take on more work. YouTube is similar, but there's an added layer of complexity. Caleb makes a point in his video that I think a lot of people don't realize about YouTube as a career. Your input doesn't necessarily equal your output. You can put a ton of work into a video and make way less money than you did with a half-assed video. That's very different from other jobs. Exploitation aside, yes, obviously everyone should be making more money. But in general, with traditional work, if you put in more hours, you're financially rewarded for that. If you're in sales and you put in an extra 10 hours a week, you sell a couple more cars, you make more money. If you do hourly work, add a few hours to your schedule, you make more money. If you work freelance and you take on another gig, you make more money. On YouTube, you could add 30 hours a week and not see a cent in extra income. In fact, you could see the complete opposite and have your revenue tank for what seems like no reason at all. So, it's not surprising that just about every YouTuber says they have a bad work-life balance. You're constantly worried that if you don't feed the algorithm, you won't be able to pay the bills. This is one of the core features of capitalism. You work or you starve. And on YouTube, sometimes you work and you still starve. That uncertainty is draining in a way that is difficult for a lot of people to understand. But the money aspect is only part of the work-life balance thing. When you're a YouTuber, you have work at your fingertips 24/7. Much like Ken's job is just beach, my job is just phone. YouTube is right here, all the time, in my pocket. I'll just have a quick peek, just one little peek. I swear, one more peek, just one look. It becomes all-consuming. You can't escape. It gets so bad sometimes that I'll be running errands and I'll check YouTube Studio when I'm stopped at a red light. You also have to stick to a schedule religiously, or people forget you in a month. I upload here every other Friday at 9 a.m. Central Time. The program is every Friday. First Thought News episodes are every Monday and Wednesday. Analysis episodes are every other Friday. And my new channel is every other Friday, staggered with Second Thought. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy a lot of this. Yeah, it's a job, and sometimes I just want to throw my computer out the window. But YouTube is still a dream job for me. I like sharing things with people and being creative. But that's where we run into another problem.
My whole life just turned to this business, and it's all fun when you get to make videos, but not when you're managing a business and constantly doing tasks that you just don't.
Yes, dude, this is exactly why whenever people are like, Hasan, why don't you do this? Why don't you expand? Why don't you hire more people? Blah, blah, blah. You think I don't know how like I can grow this business in a sustainable fashion? I do. But that's the part of the reason why I have this like insane workload is because I don't want to be a manager. I am not a good manager. I don't want to be a manager. I don't want to manage people. It sucks. Okay? I think a lot of people don't realize, like, yeah, sure, these guys are really fortunate, but they're also, they're business owners, but they're also doing tasks that you don't want. Try a real job. Yeah, I know. No one is saying that what these guys are doing is harder than being a fucking dock worker or working at an Amazon distribution facility. I hope you understand that. Okay? The only difference, however, in this circumstance is that for them, they're also not only just owners of a business, but they're worker owners. Okay? So in a way, I kind of see it as like a small business owner who's like, all right, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to pack up shop, but I'm going to get other people to work for me. It's kind of like that. Does that make sense? I feel like that is what's going on here. Like the way that they're approaching this is like that a little bit.
like to do. I miss to be creative. I really miss that so much.
One thing I use as an analogy is kind of like a contractor building houses. When you first start, you're loving it, you're building houses, you're making money, you're doing your thing. But after a certain point, you kind of develop things you enjoy and things you don't enjoy about something. And when it comes to making a video, if that's a house, you look at your next video that you need to do because it's your job and you don't want to pour
I like people that say get a real job that are also the same people who talk about how if AI can replace you, you didn't have a job worth having. Yeah. Well, it's not very
another foundation. You don't want to frame out the whole house. You can see all of the work ahead of you and you just don't want to do it. Throw in all that other fun stuff we already talked about and you have kind of this mess. And so that
is your hesitation around being a manager while the producer roles a stretch goal. Keeping overhead low is so important. Makes sense to me. It's I don't want to manage someone, and I also don't want to be like, I don't want someone's entire life to be me. You know what I mean? I feel like that's so much. I already have like people that I work with that rely on me. And every time I add another person, it's like a tremendous amount of pressure. Because it's such an important responsibility. And I don't ever want to get to a point like I care about sustainability. That's what I mean. You guys remember that that clip that goes around all the time of me being like, oh, I live on bare necessities or something, or whatever the fuck it is. It's been bastardized so many times. What I was actually trying to make a point there was about why I don't like engage in capital accumulation or grow, because I care about sustainability. Okay? I care about sustainability, not like permanent growth, because I feel like permanent growth and permanent revenue strategies, okay? Permanent growth and permanent revenue strategies, in my opinion, and shifting your focus to that, in my opinion, creates this like incredibly unsustainable environment around your business. It's just a cancerous dynamic, is a cancerous attitude. Like, do you think I could not collaborate with all of these other content creators, whether it be YouTube, whether it be other content creators that I collaborate with, or March? Like, March's a great example, right? Like in another circumstance, in like how this normally works would be like I would just give him a salary, okay? Be a salaried employee, and it would not be tied to the amount of revenue that we're generating, all this kind of stuff, right? Like, and that way I could make a shit ton more money for myself. I could have just taken a shit ton more of the revenue that we're creating. If my goal was to just like generate revenue, that's what I would do. I would just like hire someone, pay them above market rates. Okay. And just keep growing and keep growing and keep growing and grow and grow and grow. But I don't want to do that. I think that's not the right way to do it. As someone in tech field, lots of small companies end up failing and getting worse because they all grow, or the point it becomes a mess. Yeah. I like when you talk about socialism in real life context as opposed to doing only politics. Yeah, that's my point. This is what I'm trying to do. This is what I am explaining. Like, for example, okay? Twitch. Massively successful company, gets bought out by Amazon for $1 billion. Major company, grows, and during COVID, during the peak of COVID, people go crazy because like growth projections are off the charts. Amazon says, here's a wad of cash, grow. And then now look at them. They had to fire a shit ton of employees, right? Because now Amazon's like, never mind, you grew too much. And it's becoming unsustainable for us. Like, those are real people that lost their jobs. I don't want to be in that situation. Right? Patreon would have been better if they didn't aim for extraordinary growth. Now they're crumbling. Exactly. I don't know how you can convince people, though, to separate persona from your IRL life. Like, you're not an insane person committed to socialism, just an ideology. No, but like, the other part of this is that, like, I think I run a very ethical, in my own moral framework. I think I am, yes, I think I abide by the standards that I apply to others 100%. And I think that the world would be better if more people were like this. But ultimately, I guess, the reason why I'm mentioning all this is because why Patreon would have been better. The reason why I'm mentioning all this is because, like, it just ruins that permanent growth model, ruins people. Like, for all of his, I guess, political associations that I very publicly have disagreed with, I think what PewDiePie did was great. Right? Like, not the politics side, but as a pure content creator, what he did was right. What he did was the good thing, right? He just has like one editor or two editors or whatever the fuck, and he just did his own goddamn thing. He just kept doing his own thing and consistently still does his own thing, and was able to retire and just, like, you know, keeps making his own content from afar, right? Does that make sense? Anyway, from a business perspective, if you wanted to expand sustainably without creating dependency, you can create new pods or channels with others helming that you could break off if you get burnt out on it. If you're trying to explain the position of CEOs, sure. Admit it, you like PewDiePie because he's ripped and hot. I think PewDiePie being ripped and hot plays a role in my assessment. I will admit this. It's hard for me to, you know, sit here and lie to you and act like that does not play a role. It certainly does play a role, okay? Fuck. Anyway,
That's where I'm kind of at, or have been at.
I feel like everything online is slowly converging towards the boring, bland, gray middle point where everyone just tries to maximize retention, views, and this metric and that statistic, which just leads everyone to like the same end product, and it's become beyond saturated. For me and my own creativity, I just don't enjoy where this is going.
So, creativity and homogenization. This is another challenge under capitalism. We are all unwilling subjects of the profit motive. YouTube is an inherently creative job. You're producing art or content or entertainment or whatever you want to call it, but your base consideration has to be financial stability. There's a reason most YouTubers don't do it full time, and those that do have to supplement their income with Patreon, link below, please, love of God, link below, or sponsorships, or sell.
What you were describing by talking about sustainability is actually what some old small business owner right winger actually want, but are too dumb to understand it. Yeah, I think so.
Selling LUT packs or
like, it makes me, doing this makes me happy. Okay, you know what wouldn't make me happy? If I was doing other shit. Growth would require me to do other shit, specifically managing others, managing their behavior, managing like my expectations from them. I don't want to do that. That's a totally different thing that I'm not good at. That's why I would always laugh at people when they were like, hey, Hasan, why don't you build a cooperative? Which I, of course, ironically ended up building, by the way. And those guys didn't shut the fuck up about it. They're like, oh, you claim to be a socialist, but here you are not building a cooperative. I did. And now they're still fucking chirping. Turns out, guys, their commentary did not revolve around like holding me to account to maintain an ethical business. Okay?
Online classes. When you're doing YouTube as a side project, you can afford to make the videos you want. But when this is your full-time gig, like it is for people making these goodbye videos, your art has to take a back seat to putting food on the table. That's a tough pill to swallow for people who are genuinely invested in creating artistic or thoughtful things for their audience to enjoy. No one starts out making money on YouTube. It is always first a labor of love. But as soon as your channel gets verified, the calculus changes. Now you have to figure out, okay, do I want to keep this as a side project, or do I want to build this into something that can pay the bills? And even if you decide on the former, sometimes your channel will grow and become financially stable anyway. And then it's really hard to turn down leaving your dead-end job to focus more on the work you enjoy, which then becomes a job, which then requires you to play by the rules of the YouTube game to continue growing, staying relevant, and making a living. It's the trap pretty much every successful channel falls into. But there's another aspect of creativity under capitalism that's worth exploring. There's this concept called enshittification, sometimes called platform decay, coined by writer Cory Doctorow in November of 2020.
Good faith question. Why can't these YouTubers hire more staff to help them? Money, complexity. I think they already have. I low-key, or I guess not low-key, but high-key think that the reason why they're quitting is because they have hired more staff. And the dynamic of their content creation has shifted away from being a pure content creator and doing it for fun to a manager, a business owner, a CEO, if you will. And that shit's boring as hell. Okay? Now, of course, that's me. That's my assessment on it. I might be totally off base here, okay? I might be completely wrong. Well, they're getting paid for it. No, I know. The difference, by the way, the difference is like these guys have the opportunity to be able to like publicly quit. Do you see what I'm saying? Like quit and still make money. They're just informing their audience that like they're going to take a back seat and they don't want to like keep being the face of the product. You know what I mean? Are you not afraid of not growing in some ways that will make your project fizzle out? Not really. I don't know. I have the capacity to adapt to my circumstances. I think that like, you know, the numbers that I'm at right now, 21,000, are actually around 10K lower than where I was for the past couple of years at this point. My average was around 30K. Now my average is around 20K. Back in the day, this would have like absolutely wrecked me, destroyed my brain. I would have been so sad. And at first I was actually upset about it, but I adapted. You know what I mean? That's it. It's like, it's my mentality. Your numbers increase a lot during election time? No. And people say, oh, it's election time. It'll be better, buddy. I promise. Like, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it doesn't even matter. It don't even matter. Right? It's just like the election season is very boring, and it's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna be the way that people think it is. How does 30K versus 20K factor in total unique viewers, not just concurrence? People are growing older and getting into more demanding jobs. Yes, I think like part of the reason why my numbers have gotten smaller this past year is because one, election cycle, boring, nobody cares. Two, people don't really watch as much. Like people don't watch streamers as much as they used to, obviously. And last but not least, one of the more important factors is that people get older, they cycle out. A lot of people do stay because of the nature of the content that I make. But if you don't have a steady supply of newcomers to the fold that you're bringing in through collaborations and other things, your audience is going to inevitably burn out as well. This is like burnout is not just on the Twitch streaming side. Even the Twitch watchers burn out usually. Sometimes they go to other content creators, or sometimes they just leave the platform altogether inevitably, right? And I think that one way to obviously get ahead of that would be by making more content on other avenues like YouTube and TikTok and whatnot, which is why you see a lot of the growth on this platform. The new content creators on this platform are those who have popped off big time on YouTube Shorts, like that pirate guy, or those who have popped off big time on TikTok, like Handsome Fella, Jinxie, KCO, these guys, Kai even. Like, these are people that have a steady flow of like constantly reminding people like, I'm here, I'm live, this is what I'm doing. Isn't that crazy? And I think that's what it is. The pirate software guy, yeah. I think that's where it comes from.
Enshittification refers to the tendency of online platforms like Amazon, Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, and YouTube to act as a predatory, two-sided market. Here's how Dr. O describes the process. Here is how platforms die. First, they are good to their users. Then, they abuse their users to make things better for their business customers. Finally, they abuse those business customers to claw back all the value for.
So you're saying you turn from a political streamer to a variety streamer as it doesn't matter? What? No, I was always a variety streamer. What I'm saying is when I get burned out of like the consistent politics, when it like starts impacting me, I can always like tune my content to, I can always tune my content back to like more fun shit.
For themselves. Then they die. I call this enshittification, and it's a seemingly inevitable consequence arising from the combination of the ease of changing how a platform allocates value, combined with the nature.
Think about it this way. I started the process today, and there were dudes immediately coming in and going, dude, you have to talk about Israel. Israel went into a hospital in Jenin. Israel went into a hospital in Jenin. You have to talk about it. I said, no. I put my foot down, and I said, this is what I want to do first, and then I'll eventually get to it. Right? Which I will. But I think this like that's something to understand. Like, this shit is boring as hell. All right. Well, sorry, Vinny Kitty. I know you're a 21-month subscriber. Of course, your brain is permanently broken. You want content, you want politics, and you want it now. I get it. But you know, I will get to it.
Of a two-sided market, where a platform sits between buyers and sellers, hold each hostage to the other, raking off an ever larger share of the value that passes between them. The internet is full of examples of this form of decay. Google search used to simply return results to the best of its ability based on the parameters you gave it. Now the whole first page of results is ads and websites full of articles that are 90% SEO phrases. Amazon.
Yeah, this part is really bad. This is like the dead. This is, I think, the most prescient part of the dead internet theory is that it's just like we have found out ways of manipulating parts of the internet that simply used to work, and now not so much, right? Like, kind of doesn't work. And it has made everything just worse overall.
Amazon shows you a dozen sponsored items before you get to the real results. TikTok and Instagram are specifically tailored to keep you scrolling and consuming. YouTube is a prime example of this form of decay. First, it was a place for normal people to publish silly videos. Then it attracted investment and advertisers. Then it changed how the platform works to maximize revenue generation and encourage content that plays by those rules. And now it's running an ad blocker to really crack down on any lost revenue and force people to pay for YouTube Premium to stop the incessant advertising. And none of this is evil. It's just the logical conclusion of a neoliberal capitalist system. Every platform is a market, everything must have a dollar value attached, and consumption is a lifestyle. So it's no surprise that big channels that have grown with the platform are noticing this trend and are disgusted by it. There's no room for creativity when everything has
I feel like a lot of libs showed their ass and stopped watching you because of the Palestine genocide. Yeah, sure.
To be scripted, edited, and presented for retention above all else. That's how we ended up with Mr. Beast. He plays the game perfectly, and his videos are disgusting and devoid of any actual value beyond being used as slop for the content trough. And hey, look, no hate for people who just want to watch Mr. Beast run some deranged game show. That's your prerogative. But for the people who started out making beautiful things for the sake of making beautiful things, this trend of enshittification is really disheartening. And kind of along those lines is the alienation aspect of all this. At the end of the day, it's you against the all-consuming maw of the internet. YouTube is still such a niche career that there are so incredibly few people who actually understand what it's like to do this. It's lonely, it's stressful, it's scary. Strip away all the frills, and at its core, YouTube is an altar on which you lay yourself at the mercy of a billion people. You play for the crowd. You make a spectacle.
How does Mr. Beast not get burned out? Dude, I think he's a freak too. Like, you know how I'm a freak and I find a lot of emotional fulfillment from what I do? I think he's a freak in the way that he finds a lot of emotional fulfillment from what he does as well, because it makes no goddamn sense. But he's also very young too. You're right. You're right. M. Hood's right. He is very young. Something we forget about Mr. Beast is that he's literally like 24 or something. Like, he's crazy young.
Of yourself. You know there are buzzards out there waiting to turn your next video into drama content. You know who you are. You are at the center.
Damn.
To do this. It's lonely. It's stressful. It's scary. Strip away all the frills, and at its core, YouTube is an altar on which you lay yourself at the mercy of a billion people. You play for the crowd. You make a spectacle of yourself. You know there are buzzards out there waiting to turn your next video into drama content. You know who
he's right.
You are. You are at the center of hundreds, thousands, millions of views, and yet you're completely alone. None of these people know you. None of them see the work that goes on behind the scenes. It's you and your camera and your laptop. That's not how humans were meant to function.
Yeah, Mr. Beast is like one of the unique people that, like, I think genuinely enjoys the growth and the business aspect of what he does. That's what I meant when I said he gets emotional fulfillment out of what he's doing. Does that make sense? You guys understand? Not a lot of motherfuckers are like that, okay? Especially in the YouTube space. He does. I get a lot of emotional. He is like pure distillation of like capitalism for the sake of capitalism. Like, he just likes it. He enjoys it. Look, for me, number go up is good. Okay, getting showered with praise, great. Of course, that feels good. But overall, the major component here that offers me emotional fulfillment, that I derive a lot of emotional fulfillment out of, is the fact that I feel like I'm doing something that is worth a damn. Okay, I feel like if I change one person's mind, if I can get one more person to be charitable to like trans people, even though they were originally transphobic, like, that's my goal. That's what I do. And that's what I do well. If I can get one person that is like super rad lippy, for example, that turns around and is like no longer as aggressive, okay, no longer as like aggro and uncharitable in the way that they analyze other people, okay, then that's the good thing. That's what I want to do. I want to like soften people's edges a little bit on that front. And there are versions of the types of people that I've mentioned in this community. There are people who were like probably major rad libs originally, and they have grown to become more charitable over time to others who are on their own unique and personal journey. And there are certainly a shit ton of people who used to be very edgy and very ignorant and bigoted and oblivious to the realities of the world, and have grown to empathize with plenty of marginalized communities and now defend them. That is my goal. Okay? That gives me a shit ton of emotional fulfillment. When I went to Austin, and that dude that showed up with the DSA badge, he's in the chat somewhere, I assume. The dude was like, "Look, he's a union worker. He joined a union. He joined the DSA. Like, that's huge, okay? And there are plenty of people like that in this community, okay?" That's why I do what I do. And that's what reminds me of when I meet people like that in the meat space. That's what reminds me of the fact that, like, what I do kind of matters a little bit. I was Albanian and you made me realize I was Turkish. Yes. Good.
These large channels face alienation to some extent. They often grow beyond the capabilities of one person, and that person then relinquishes creative control of the content in order to run the business side of things. Separated from their own art for the sake of playing the profit-driven YouTube game. Speaking of profit and big channels, there's one more thing we need to consider.
I should have just done this as a live stream and uploaded it to Captain Sparkles too, which, speaking of, No changes planned for live streaming and the VOD uploads on the second channel. That's business as usual.
I have like another channel called Papa Meat that's doing really well. And if you haven't heard of that, feel free to check it out. We post like every 3 days, but that's becoming more of like my money maker, actual job thing now.
This probably isn't goodbye, like not forever. The podcast I host, Lateral, is still going out weekly. My newsletter's still going out. The Plus channel will probably return at some point. There'll likely be new technical difficulties episodes.
I'm still going to be here. I'm still going to be alongside the creative directors talking about programming, brainstorming ideas for upcoming episodes. That's awesome. I love that. I don't want to give that up. But the other cool thing about this is that it opens up the door for me to turn the script. For the last 13 years, I've been commenting on other people's IP, but now that I'm stepping out of those roles, I get to create the IP.
Here's the part that no one that I've seen has really talked about. The one big thing to realize is that most of these people aren't quitting being creative. Just about all of them have other outlets for that, whether it's a second channel or a podcast or some other avenue. They're just stepping away from the horrible grind that full-time YouTube has become. And this isn't me saying, aha, you're not really quitting. That couldn't be further from the truth. I'm genuinely really happy for these people because I recognize that in the near future, I'm going to be in the same boat.
It's pretty funny though that like like YouTubers, I'm just comparing it to like what I do, and it's like YouTubers are like, yeah, we used to make like 1 video a month, or we used to make like 4 videos a month, and now I'm gonna only make 1 video a month. I'm like, damn, dog, like it's like maybe like I'm retiring. I mean, if I was making 1 video a month, that would be my retirement, I think, or 4 videos a month, that would be my retirement, like genuinely.
I've been running Second Thought for 8 years. It's gone through a couple different iterations, but I've never missed an upload in that time, and I'm tired too. If you think about it, what's the point of YouTube? What's the bottom line in 2024? More views.
I no longer respect Second Thought after this video, totally hypocritical and disingenuous to his message. Wait, what? Yeah, you're right. I think you should write him off. Dude's been making like banger pro-socialist content for like 8 years, but I think you should absolutely drop him. I'm dropping him too. Okay, I'm dropping him. It's over, dude. I bet you he's not even subscribed to Avoid the Top of the Hour ad break. Okay, I bet you. It's over. It's done. Okay, it's done. It's over. That's right. If you come at me like that with some fucking bullshit, try to debate me to get me to, look at what you are saying so that you can try and fucking sneak in a little ad break there, I will steal that from you. Just like you should steal your wife's boyfriend's Amazon Prime account and connect it to your Twitch account so you can get 1 free Prime subscription a month. Calm like a Tom. Thank you for the 10 gifted Lily Chaos God. Thank you for the 5 gifted Emma. I think if most big YouTubers who don't stream had to sit in front of 20K people for 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, and reply to mostly just the mean ones, they would genuinely kill themselves after a little while, or at least want to. I think most people would do that. Not just like YouTubers in general. How often do you stare into the retirement abyss? No, man, I hate this. The thing is, guys, I just described it to you. If I hold up my trips that I've taken over this past couple of years, right? My favorite trips were Japan. Why? Because I got to experience Japan. I got to do a shit ton of cool stuff, and I got to actually film a lot of it, okay? I went with my friends who also are content creators as well, and we went and we made fucking awesome content. It was sick, okay? It was incredible. As opposed to like a situation where I had no obligations whatsoever, technically, when I went to Italy with my family, okay? That I did not enjoy at all. To me, work doesn't feel like work. To me, work makes me feel good.
Views, more money, more recognition. The information you're trying to get across, the message you want to send, that takes a backseat. I know a whole lot of channels in the education niche that have transitioned from making videos they think are interesting to making videos they think will perform well. And when that works, you scale up. You hire a couple people, then some more. And then suddenly you're Linus Tech Tips with an army of employees, and now you're just running a business.
Okay, bud. Anyone here can sit in front of a bunch of jabronis and run ad breaks at the top of the hour all day. Come on, true.
Okay, so why not stop? It's one thing to step back from gaming content or infotainment or gear reviews, but it's a bit more challenging when you're making ideological content. Yes, obviously everything is ideological, but you know what I mean. I make content designed to get people interested in socialist ideas. My main objective is to get people over that initial hurdle of socialism bad and funnel them into organizations to help build class consciousness and dual power. Not to pat myself on the back, but I think I do a pretty good job of that. I've gotten a bunch of really nice messages over the last few years from people who have gotten involved in organizing because of my videos.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to justify stepping away from that. I'm not under any illusion that my channel is the only thing driving Western viewers to get organized. There are so many fantastic channels that do excellent work. But for better or for worse, Second Thought is the largest channel in this niche, which means I have at least...
Excuse me. Hello? That's... Dude, excuse me? Sorry, what? I guess he just means like in the YouTube. I guess he means YouTube, right? And not live streaming, I assume, you know.
Somewhat of an obligation to keep doing this work. And don't worry, if all this sounds like I'm quitting, I'm not going anywhere, I'm just thinking out loud. Most of these YouTubers retiring are from massive personality channels. They've made their money, they can ride off into the sunset, and more power to them. That's great. But I think it's also important to remember that YouTube is home to literally tens of millions of channels, and the majority of them over the course of their YouTube career will throw in the towel for all the same reasons as any of the big names, but without the financial security or enough fame to segue to something else. YouTube, like anything else, is not really voluntary. Under capitalism, you work or you starve. If YouTube is your full-time job, you better make the right sacrifices to the algorithm because you need the money and you have no idea if you're going to get it. And that's before we even consider demonetization or age restriction. You could put 100 hours into a beautiful documentary and end up way in the red.
To piggyback off of what JT just said, I wouldn't have even considered joining a union before watching you, and now I'm helping organize my workplace at the moment. Hell yeah, shy nipple, let's go.
Because you showed current events that YouTube thinks are not advertiser friendly.
What is this?
But that's a topic for another video. And there's a whole other aspect to this that we didn't get into, which is people looking at YouTube and seeing a platform by and for amateurs. And that's just not really the case anymore. Yeah, anyone can upload to YouTube, and that's great. But most people don't realize that YouTube and the film industry have kind of merged into this one big content blob. I mean, heck, our team has worked all across the media landscape from, documentaries, TV, you name it. And if you followed the news about the labor situation in Hollywood, you know that everything is on fire. A couple of years ago, there were horrible stories coming out about working conditions for VFX artists. Same thing for animation. Last year, you had the screen actors and the writers striking, and they haven't both gone on strike at the same time since 1960. IATSE, the labor union that represents a lot of technicians and craftspeople, they're talking about going on strike sometime this year. And all of this is connected to the same kinds of things that YouTubers are talking about. Crappy residuals, insane overwork, unreliable income, and now these stupid AI content farms. This is all connected. And YouTubers retiring is just one tiny aspect of a larger narrative about work, art, and life in the 21st century. Anyway, this was not the script I was expecting to write this week. I came into the office and I watched a couple of those goodbye videos, and I felt compelled to give my...
Because you and my wife joined a teachers union, and now they're striking in Newton, MA. It's been 10 days and the school committee refused to budge on contracts. Striking is illegal in MA, but we're pushing forward anyways. Congratulations, and good luck. Anyway. But yeah, no, there's a lot of good that happens, and that is precisely the reason why I do what I do. At the end of it all, I wanted to end that conversation on a positive note, and I think JT did the exact same thing, which is that, like, I get a shit ton of emotional fulfillment off of what I do, and I feel as though, what? I started watching to see who was the guy making more in subs than Pay Money Wubby, and now I'm going to be the chair of my DSA chapter and running a local unionizing hotline. Hell yeah. Anyway, that's what I mean. There's like people in here that are community organizers, people that have run for local office and won. It's good. Sometimes, like I mentioned, when I see the insanity of people just being like, go back to your own country, literally, and then substitute that for like real politics or something, and try to act like they're making a legitimate argument about policy or whatever, policy disagreements. That's a little different. That does genuinely take up a mental toll. You know? Fucks me up a little bit. I don't like it. But it's just a good reminder that this shit is positive overall.